straight from the Hbar Foundation. So what is this all about? Well, this was reported a little bit earlier today. And like you see, it says, already leveraged by global institutions, the Hedera Guardian, if you're aware of what that is, by the way, is the trust layer of climate finance. This is how we scale from billions to trillions. And this really caught my attention because you guys are always talking about scalability. And, you know, when it comes to a faster TPS, Hedera definitely takes the cake compared to like Ripple's XRP, XDC, Stellar, and so on. But scalability and the concept of billions to trillions, some people don't see it. I hate to say it. Some people are like, oh yeah, you know, in regards to trillions being added to the overall crypto market, it's just going to be BTC, it's going to be ETH, you know, Ripple and Stellar and Hbar, they'll contribute a little bit, but it's just going to be a few billions. So when you see something like this, keep an open mind. Let's let it speak for itself. Minute and 9 seconds, and then we'll get into this part from Ursula von der Leyen. What does she have to say? Well, if you're not familiar with who she is, she's the president of the European Union Commission. Why would somebody like this be tagged in regards to Hedera? Let's go ahead and play this. Thanks for being here. Here we go. All right. Obviously, that's impressive. At the end, you saw the whole thing of the governing council and then, you know, other companies built on Hedera. We know most of this stuff. Doesn't end there, though. I want to share just another brief video with you guys. So let's take you over to this other one. And you may be wondering, for instance, like, you know, what is all this in reality? Well, when I was looking more into the whole thing of Hedera Guardian and so on, and this whole thing about, you know, what they're trying to do with, you know, carbon and whatnot, I came to this old video, and it's only about 2 minutes and 6 seconds. But what I want to point out is what's mentioned here from July 27th, 2019. It says, in developing markets, many people do not have access, of course, to stable currency or even a bank account. True. But they may have mobile devices, of course, with an internet connection. Carbon aims to facilitate a more inclusive and efficient global economy by launching reliable, price-stable cryptocurrencies that leverage Hedera's hash graph, high throughput, and security. Now, just a little bit more about this. Carbon USD, which is what is referred to here, is a compliant, price-stable cryptocurrency that is one-to-one backed, of course, with the United States dollar. Starting off with full fiat collateralization, is basically essential for bootstrapping the market's trust in stable coin without depending on the size of a, like, you know, initial reserve. The team has developed a novel mechanism for transitioning to a hybrid fiat algorithmic stablecoin model once Carbon USD reaches sufficient scale as a fully fiat-backed token. Now, we do understand that there is a period of time, obviously, with what happened with UST from Terra Luna, on why a lot of people just kind of just didn't want to mention the whole thing of algorithmic stablecoins, and I couldn't blame them. You're starting to see a little bit more of it mentioned. Maybe it's because it just needed some time to, you know, take a breather from that, right? I want to show this to you, and if anything, let me know what you think. We got a little bit more about why this is significant, but this is like it says, carbon stabilizes currency globally. You got to keep in mind, Hedera has a lot of focus when it comes to being, one of the greenest of the green, excuse me, them and algo. But on top of that, it's like, we talk about reduced costs and fees and so on. By them being so pro green, I mean, there's not much energy being wasted or burned, right? So anyway, let's speak for itself. We'll get more into this, and especially that lady from the European Union here in a second. Here we go.
When the earthquake hit, the banking system collapsed. So people started sending in cash. When people know that a lot of cash is coming in, hijacking became a massive, massive problem. So a bunch of gasoline trucks got hijacked. That had an immediate impact on the ability of hospitals to operate. So we ended up kind of filling a bunch of square containers with gasoline, putting them in a bus under the level of the windows, and just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping they were going to make it. I was acutely aware of economics and well-being from a very young age. I want to build an economic tool that would have a massive, far-reaching, and deep impact on as many people as possible. Carbon seemed like the better vehicle for those efforts, a better vehicle for impact than just kind of getting a CS degree and just kind of participating in the general software engineering jobs fair that is Silicon Valley. Carbon is a solution to volatility. We want to make cryptocurrency into actual money. And there's a lot of people who just don't have any form of access to financial infrastructure. And what this results in is kind of cycles of poverty, right? Something that's absolutely necessary for crypto to move forward is higher throughput. Throughput is the amount of transactions per second that a ledger can process. The cost of moving around carbon is going to correlate to the throughput of a ledger. I've always viewed Hedera, given its security, as kind of the best solution for the throughput portion of the equation. Carbon is definitely a long-term solution. This won't have failed or succeeded probably in a year even, because we're working on rebuilding just a lot of the globe's financial infrastructure. Like that's a pretty tall order. We want to see everyone everywhere have access to financial infrastructure that's superior to what Americans have today. I think that we're at the very start of something huge in just human history.
Okay, so what I want to share with you guys before we end this Hedera coverage is back to the statement from this particular lady. So let me go ahead and share this with you. And this is from this lady here. Come back into the frame. Her name is Ursula von der Leyen, right? Like I said, she is the president of the European Union Commission, mother of 7, Brussels-born, European by heart. She states, in climate finance, we have to move from billions, of course, into trillions. To get there, we need new sources of revenues, new levies, green bonds, and of course, carbon pricing. We need more than ever strong partnerships with global gateway. Now you got to keep in mind, it takes you to this whole thing, but this was sourced, like you saw earlier, from Hedera. See what you want to have some of these connections. I think it's a big deal. And here is where the link brings you to. This is December 2nd, which is today. Statement by President von der Leyen at the COP28 presidency Global Stock Roundtable on means of implementation. Now, we pointed out some of these things before, I think about over a month ago, in regards to like quant, some of the big wigs like Gilbert Verdian attending some of these things. But, she talks about how this is going to happen and about this implementation. I like this because you know what? It is great examples of, as I would say, utility in motion. So can we give you examples of just that? Some actual utility in motion? Well, it has to be implemented first. She wanted, of course, to focus on 2 powerful tools, finance and partnerships. She talks about how climate finance is at the core of the topics in the coming days. It's not just about money. It's about trust. Last year, the European Union contributed to close to about $30 billion in climate finance to developing countries. She has consistency when it comes to delivering the 100 billion target by the end of this year. But they state that, or she states that they committed to doubling finance for adaptation. And it's their priority for them to be able to have a new loss and damage fund that can start without delay. Yesterday, December 1st, she announced that 25 million euros from the EU budget will be available right away to help operationalize the fund. And when you get more into this, the point is back to the whole topic of being able to scale billions to trillions. She states to get there, we need to find new sources of revenue. She wants to, of course, have this whole initiative from this particular guy, President Macron and President Ruto. I don't know who they are. I'll be honest about that. But the goal is to develop new levies to raise more money for climate action and to have a green bond market. Think about this for a second, because we understand Hedera being heavily tied into this, and especially using the Hbar coin. But they want to expand this to developing countries, or basically initializing or implementing, like it says, this initiative to their economies. Green bonds facilitates the flow of private capital, of course, in green projects. Therefore, they have launched the Global Green Initiative to attract private capital to developing countries. Now, back to this example of billions to trillions. It says, in this period, emissions covered by our system went down by almost 40%. The economy kept growing, and they have raised over 175 billion euros in revenue. And these revenues are going to climate action, to also help develop other particular countries. Yesterday, they teamed up with the IMF, the World Bank that we're always talking about as well, and the WTO to scale up carbon markets. So all those people saying that Hedera can't scale, no, not true. And to develop criteria for true carbon credits. And of course, have a reform of international financial architecture. Well, of course, she has another second point about all this stuff, but the point I want to jump down to is their emphasis. So check this out for a second. It says that their emphasis is on renewable energy and clean hydrogen. And this creates a perfect win-win situation. Developing countries want to leapfrog into clean energy. We've seen numerous examples about that. And like it says, while industrializing and creating good jobs for their people, they are a crucial part of the solution. It says we as in Europeans are interested to invest, because this diversifies and strengthens their supply chains in these growing new markets. It is the best investment any of us can make. And if anything, you can throw XDC into mix, especially when it comes to supply chain and trade, maybe even some other ones like, we talk about VeChain, Morpheus network, and so on, right? So there's that. And I do think by having this all implemented, and especially trying to help these economies thrive, it is towards the path of mass adoption when you really think about it. And again, guys, this is just one layer of Hedera compared to all the other things they got going on. It made obviously recent news, and I thought I would go ahead and share that with you. In conclusion, I do have some notes that I want to get into. Basically speaking, back to the whole thing of Hedera Guardian. What is the significance for it? Is it a nothing burger? Well, of course not. You got to keep in mind that in the field of sustainability, due to its ability to address several critical challenges in the voluntary carbon market, which is called the VCM, it is crucial that this mechanism of the VCM combats climate change by allowing organizations, individuals to offset, of course, their emissions through the purchase of just that, carbon credits. Now, here in the United States, a lot of us are not exactly for this. Some are for it, some are against it, whatever the case be. But you got to keep in mind, different area of the world, Europe, they're more of the conglomerate that's embracing some of these things. What kind of opportunity will it create for us as the Hedera Hbar holder? Keep in mind, VCM is currently plagued by several issues, currently speaking. So we have to point some of this out. For one, fraud and lack of transparency. The VCM, again, just in case you forgot what that means, the voluntary carbon market has been susceptible, of course, to fraud. And with individuals and organizations issuing fake or illegitimate carbon credits, that's a bad thing. But where Hedera comes in to the mix is we understand with the hash graph consensus, you do have things that are verifiable, or as the saying goes, future proof, verifiable on a ledger, as Dr. Lehman Baird has mentioned. So this also helps combat a problem that exists in regards to fraud and lack of transparency. Like it says in the notes, the lack of transparency has eroded trust in the market and hindered its growth. But again, Hedera comes in and meets that, that void, if you will. Duplication, double counting. Think about this for a second. Carbon credits have been double counted, leading to an oversupply of credits and undermines the integrity, of course, of the market. The issue arises from a lack of centralized tracking and verification of carbon credits. Again, Hedera comes in and meets this problem with a head-on solution. Number 3 in regards to this problem, efficiency and lack of liquidity. And I want you to think about this for a second. The VCM is fragmented and inefficient, making it difficult for buyers and sellers to connect and transact, of course, smoothly. This inefficiency has been limited to the participation of individuals and organizations, of course, in the actual market. Now, back to this whole thing of Hedera through Guardian. This will allow to address these various challenges that we just talked about. And it's going to help leverage the Hedera Public Distributed Ledger Network, obviously their particular DLT, to create a secure, transparent, and even efficient VCM. The DLT provides a immutable and tamper-proof record of all carbon credits, not just some, eliminating the risk of fraud and double counting. It also facilitates seamless transactions between buyers, sellers, improving liquidity and market efficiency. Now, even though this whole thing is focused on carbon credits and so on, I'm just going to go ahead and call it. I think at some point in the future, you may see like the U.S. government implement what Hedera has to offer in regards to, let's face it, not taking the, double the votes and stuff like that. I'm not trying to turn this into a political conspiracy theory. But, this will eliminate the whole notion of, the Dems won, the Republicans won, and so on. If you have something that's an answer to anything, that creates value. And this is not just value in regards to carbon credits. In summary, about 5 things I want to get into about the benefits of Hedera Guardian. So for one, enhanced transparency and traceability. Hedera Guardian provides auditable, traceable, and I can't even pronounce it tonight. Reproducible, so many common words. I'm sorry. I can't talk. Reproducing records of carbon credits. Sorry about that. Ensuring transparency through the entire VCM lifecycle. Very, very true. You talked about fraud prevention, so we're not going to get into that again. But I do want to talk about for a second for instance, efficient tokenization and issuance, because a lot of times I'm talking about quant and all that. Hedera Guardian streamlines the tokenization and issuance of the process of course, carbon credits, and reduces the cost of course, increasing efficiency because it's one of the greenest ones out there. It doesn't cost much to do this. They have simplified compliance and reporting. Hedera Guardian facilitates simplified compliance, of course, with VCM regulations, reporting requirements, reducing administrative burdens, and of course, for those particular organizations. And knowing that, you as a Hedera holder, we talked about this earlier in regards to JASMY increasing the liquidity, especially when it comes to the unbanning of, Circle, USDC, foreign stable coins, and so on. Well, this is also going to enhance market liquidity, which is great for us as the retail holders, because Hedera Guardian fosters a more liquid and efficient VCM by enabling seamless transactions, of course, between buyers and sellers. All right, last part. Overall, this whole thing of Hedera Guardian, it plays a significant role in advancing these VCMs because it's going to address its existing challenges and paves the road for a more robust, transparent, and efficient market. We all want to see that. As the VCM continues to grow, it's important to note that it's going to address climate change, and the Hedera Guardian itself is poised to play a pivotal role, of course, in its development and success. Again, if you can create any type of answer that provides a solution to a real world problem, and again, this is apparently a real world problem. Nobody's going to be on board for carbon credits if they're getting charged double, right? Counted as, you want things to be counted as one, not two. Then Hedera comes in. And again, that's just scratching the surface. Like, look at all the other things that Hedera's got going on for it. So, thought I'd point that out. It made recent news, and it's been a little bit of a while since we've done some Hedera coverage. So, if you appreciate the coverage, make sure you've liked, commented, and subscribed, as the saying goes. Appreciate it.